welcome back to the Prospecting Show. Today is July 7th, and we have Justin Oglesby and Zachary Williams on the call. How are you guys?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Did I get the name right, Justin? I know we were trying to.
Yeah, absolutely. We got it. You hit nailed right on the head, Justin Oglesby.
There we go. So, everybody that listens to the Prospecting Show, they really know there's three parts to it. There's the past, the present, and the future. But because you guys have, a pretty deep history, right? You guys have had two different companies, and it sounds like you're doing a merger now too. Let's talk a little bit about, maybe we'll go to Zach first. Give us the background, like where you started and how you got to today. Then we'll jump over and we'll go to Justin.
Yeah, so my start was back in 2016. I was working in the oil and gas industry, and I was consulting for big oil and gas companies, Marathon, Shell, BP, traveling all over the US. And I always knew I wanted to do something entrepreneurship related. And being a general contractor, in my opinion, wasn't being an entrepreneur, it was just making a lot of money. But I've always been SaaS driven. It's been my objective. And I had an idea for a machine learning AI powered marketing tool. And instead of just creating another idea and jotting it down like I'd always done in the past, I decided to go with a marketing agency and actually learn the problems, the ins and outs. So that was the development of Luckless Digital. Everything was built on the premise of my mentality: you create your own luck. And that's how Luckless got its name, its branding. And then from there, it was just an iterative process of figuring out who I liked working with, what I liked doing, and very slow, as Justin knows and many other people. I learned everything: SEO, Google Ads, Facebook ads, website development, and I'd done it all for my clients. But over the last year and a half, we cut out everything. All we do now is Google Ads, Facebook ads, and leverage the power of our call center to qualify and book appointments for our clients. So that's really where we focus on. And then Justin and I merged. It started last August when we established our friendship through a mastermind, and we developed what is now Conversionly, a white label call center. And then from there, we took our two agencies together, and now we're just Conversionly. That's where we're at.
Awesome. And so Justin, where did you start? I mean, I know you guys now are together, like you said, last August, and I don't know if it was through Robbie's original group or one of the other, masterminds you guys came together, but Justin, what's your background?
Yeah. So I used to own, well, I still do we've merged though, but I own Bullbox Marketing. So the reason why it's called Bullbox is because I used to rodeo and ride bulls back in the day through high school and through college and a little bit of program stuff. And I kind of got into healthcare from the rodeo, kind of getting hurt all the time, right? So I got into healthcare. My background's in healthcare. I got into sports medicine. I was an athletic trainer. That was my undergrad. And then I knew I wanted to go continue my education, work on my master's degree. And I thought it was either like physical therapy or physician's assistant or something like that. But then I started to look at like marketing and administration, and I saw a higher ceiling in that direction. So I went and got my master's in healthcare administration with like a little minor in marketing. And then I had a pretty good sales job with like an orthopedic company, a large orthopedic company in Florida. And I had a lot of time on my hands to be able to do other things. And after I finished the master's program, is essentially like an MBA for the healthcare industry. And it kind of taught me how to run a business and create a business and then do the marketing for that business. So I was like, it kind of always intrigued me. Like I've always had that like entrepreneurial spirit and kind of bone deep down. So I started learning how, like with marketing, we were doing a lot of SEO with the healthcare company and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I could do this for like other people too. So I started like doing SEO for a couple of people, built some websites along with that. And I quickly realized that you could do like a $3,000 website build out. And that's just like a one-time payment. And then after it's done, you get like maybe $65 a month to kind of host the website, but that's it. You're not getting additional recurring revenue per month from your client. I was like, man. And then I started doing SEO a little bit, and that's like additional money coming in each and every single month. And then what I figured out was that clients don't want you to promise that you're going to be on the top page of Google in like 6 months to a year. And they just don't have the patience for that. And they essentially want their phone to ring and get new clients like within like 30 days. So I started playing around, started doing some research and started playing around with like Facebook ads. And this is like when Facebook ads started getting really big, and then started messing around with that. And then I quickly got a couple of clients, just all from my local network. And then quickly started to figure out this is how you grow a marketing company, right? You try to get that recurring monthly revenue. And the best way to do that I've saw, through my experience that I had, was through Facebook advertising and the lead generation part, right? Because if someone pays me X amount of dollars in 30 days, they potentially want to see a return on that investment. And if they see a positive return on that investment, they're going to continue to pay me. We can help scale that up. So that's kind of like where my transition and my growth into like my marketing agency, kind of got into a couple of programs, Jeff Miller's Inner Circle, and then Scaling with Systems, kind of really focused more down into the lead generation part. And then I met Zach. Zach and I, we were doing, everything that Scaling with Systems taught us to do with Ravi's program, Ravi Abubala. And like we were getting all of our clients, we had the prospecting down, but we, for whatever reason, there were some clients that followed up with all the leads and really well. And we stuck with those clients for about 6 months to a year. They stayed with us. But then there were a couple of clients that are a handful, I would say majority of our clients that we would sign on would leave after a couple of months because they wouldn't follow up with the leads properly, right? And if they weren't following up with the leads properly, they weren't seeing the business that they wanted to see, the return on that investment that they wanted for that marketing campaign. And they would leave after about 2 or 3 months. So Zach and I, we were talking and we were like, you know what, it would be good if we just followed up with the leads for our clients. And so we partnered together to create what's now Conversionly. It's the ISA team, call center, qualification team. Like people call us, essentially what we do is we call the leads like like you're supposed to within 5 minutes. Make sure to call at least 6 times. Once we get them on the phone, we qualify them, book an appointment, just like your clients are supposed to do, right? And then so we created that for our own agencies, and then that became so successful that now we're white labeling it for other agencies. And then now we are kind of, we work so well together, and I'm really good at the front end and the marketing aspect, getting the clients, and not so good at the retention part. And Zach's just like a systems wizard and like attention to detail, and he's like the yin to my yang, and he's a strength where I kind of like the weakness. So that's why we merged, because he's a freaking genius in the back end.
No, that makes sense. And that's interesting you bring that up, because you look at a lot of business owners and kind of see where they fall apart. Most of the time, most businesses die due to lack of revenue, right? It's not deliverability. It's not that you don't have a good product. It's not enough sales, right? There's not enough revenue coming in the door. The expenses pile up, and you just can't match those two things together. So with lead generation being a core part of your guys' business, what are some of the things that you think are critical to make sure that a business who's doing lead generation actually converts that to revenue? What is like the most important piece of that process in your mind?
Go ahead, Zach.
In my mind, it's really the qualification process, because generating a lead, whether it's getting rid of the mentality of qualified versus unqualified, crappy versus good, every lead is crappy unless you qualify them appropriately. Because you could get a hot lead that has $25,000. They're ready to invest in this next generation laser liposuction service. They know they want it, they need it, but if you don't qualify them and sell them, that's a crappy lead. Anything that falls on the wayside. So I think the qualification process is 1000% the most important part of that entire transition, because generating a lead is not that difficult. If you have good systems, you have the appropriate marketing components in place, you can generate a lead in just about any channel, whether it's Google, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, organic, email, LinkedIn, etc. You can generate leads anywhere. How are you then going to take that lead into a sales qualified lead that's ready to be pitched and ready to move on throughout your sales process? Yeah,
and that's interesting you bring that up, because a lot of businesses, to your point, will say it's a good lead or a bad lead based on they picked up the phone or they attended the call or whatever it is. It's like, oh, well, yeah, the guy didn't show up, so he's a bad lead. What if the guy's got $10 million, he's ready to go, he just missed the call? Does that make him a bad lead? Probably not, right? There's some other factors that go into it. So in your guys' mind, let's say, you guys do the lead generation strategy for a customer and they're looking for, 50 leads in a month or 100, whatever their number is. How do you help push those people down the pipeline so that they can get more qualified, they can have more stimulated interest, and ultimately convert to the phone call, that preliminary sales call? Well, what are the steps that you guys go through that you recommend?
Do you want to take that, Justin?
Yeah, I'll take it. So I'll just kind of walk you through our process that we don't really see works really, really well. Is whenever you generate the lead, it should go to a qualification center or qualification person just to make sure that that lead is qualified. But first and foremost, in the ad copy and the like, if you're sending to a landing page and the form that they're filling out, all of that stuff should be kind of making sure that you're speaking to the right person with your targeting, whatever the ad images, whatever your copy is, the questions that you ask. Like some questions that we ask is like, hey, are you a business owner? What is your business name? Do you how many whatever are you doing per week? How many would you like to be doing per week? And then do you have money to invest into like a program or a system if we were able to solve that pain point for you? If they've answered all of those questions like positively, then they're pretty much qualified, right? So you send them through the ad, which is qualifying them, generating interest, and then you send them to the qualification step where someone actually does the qualifying, asks those specific questions, and then you send them to like a demonstration or a demo of your actual product or service. And before you even start, just say, hey, I just want to make sure that we're both on the same page. For example, like our marketing agency, this is a marketing agency specifically designed for your business. We're going to help you achieve X, Y, and Z. If we can assuming that we can do that for you successfully, do you have money to invest into a program like that? And if they say yes, okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and move forward with the 30-minute conversation that we're going to have.
Yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense on the qualification side. What about the balance? Maybe Zach, you can answer this one. What about the balance between quality of leads and the quantity of leads, right? Because this is like something in our agency, in our consulting practice, kind of what happens, right? Like I personally I like to take more conversations on the front end and kind of go through that qualification process on the phone and have a higher volume of leads up front and then filter them out. Whereas other people would rather take 5 phone calls a week, but they got to be the most qualified people on the planet. So how do you balance, quality?
Well, especially when you're getting started, or say you have an empty calendar and you've got nothing to do, it's quantity. The objective is to get on the phone with as many people as possible. And then once you've achieved that objective, then it's implementing friction to make sure you're spending that time with the right people on the phone. So it's adding in additional components, additional hoops that lead has to jump through to make it to that back end. So realistically, it comes with a balance of having a full calendar where you can make as many pitches as possible, but also implementing it in a way that you're making that pitch to somebody who can purchase from you.
Got it. So it's really quantity, then quality is really the steps.
In my opinion.
Right. I would always like to make a rule of thumb, like try to fill out your calendar as quickly as possible with as many people as possible. And then if you start booking out, and I'm talking about like 9 a.m. to like 6 p.m. every 30 minutes, if that's, it may take you an hour to pitch your service depending on who you are. But if you're booked out past like 3 days or 4 days, then start adding in friction, start adding in more layers of like, extra questions, that qualification step, all those good things.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because the way that you're talking about 2 different strategies, right? One is the inbound strategy. I place an ad or I place some sales copy, somebody interprets it and comes back to you. And that's really inbound when you're placing an ad. But then there's the opposite. Zach and I have had, quite a few conversations about this, is that outbound strategy, right? Like the LinkedIn, the email, the text, the voicemail, those outbound strategies. Where do you guys see more success from? Do you see inbound or outbound, or is it a balance 50-50? Or what are your guys' thoughts on, a prospecting strategy?
Ultimately, it goes with the same thing as your investment portfolio. You don't put all your investments into one stock and hope that you're going to ride that to retirement. It's diversifying. So I will say this to be clear, is ads always produce the highest quantity for us, and the fastest A to Z outcome. But we also have the different channels: cold email, LinkedIn, Facebook messaging, Facebook posts, Instagram messaging, Instagram posts, us doing, podcasts like this with you, doing interviews in other groups. That way you have multiple channels, because just like, Robbie talks about this all the time. He was shut down from being able to run ads for like 4 months. And if he didn't have organic systems, his business would have died. So having all those different components where you're able to pull in sources of leads. I think the marketing programs, and I tell this to our clients all the time, the marketing programs that are wishing on a prayer and hoping on one channel being the end all be all for them are going to be the quickest way to failure.
Yeah, and that's very true, right? I think you look at the options that people have right now. There's so many different platforms you can potentially market on, both inbound and outbound. And the people who, there's this concept of, hyper niching, and some of the people who listen to this, might not know a lot about it in the marketing space. But there's a balance too between going super deep in one vertical and then also having a diversification of services, right? You could be the best at one thing, but if there's only a couple thousand of your customers on the planet, that makes it very difficult, right? You can't possibly have 100% market share. But at the same time, if you do 10,000 different industries, it's also very hard to get the result you're looking for. So and the systems don't really line up very well either. So what is your guys' thought? Like, do you guys niche down into something particular? Do you obviously have a couple service offerings with Conversionly on the ISA center, but also on the lead gen side? What are you guys focusing on mostly, or where do you guys specialize?
Gus, do you want to about our flywheel?
So I think most of what we do, about 80% of our time and energy and effort, is like niche down into a specific service or a specific product that we know that we can deliver in and that we've seen proven results with. And then the rest 20% is just like experimenting, right? Trying to break into new niches and trying to figure out other opportunities out there, right? It's July 2020 right now. We just got, I think we're still in the middle of COVID and the back end of COVID. But imagine if you are a marketing a company that just focused and had nothing but a portfolio of restaurant clients. In March of 2020, your revenue is essentially brought down to zero. So if you didn't diversify your portfolio per se a little bit, then that's, you're essentially like leaving money on the table, right? So if you had like, say, 10 chiropractors and like 50 restaurant clients, then you potentially could have a little bit more income coming in. So we try to do 80%, and then 20 is just like, trying to figure out new avenues.
Yeah, and where do you guys see things going in the future, right? There's this, everybody's really kind of built up on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and they're all different platforms, but they're really starting to get people there, right? Everybody's using these platforms every day. They're mega platforms and they're super successful. Do you see a whole new platform coming out? Do you see a repurposing of the existing platforms? Like, where do you see people going in the future for their marketing?
I think it's going to be, in my opinion, Justin can answer this, with his perspective, but you're already seeing that, like TikTok's becoming big, and it's really just going to depend on where your customers hang out, because that's something that could, change with everything going on with COVID and the volatility that's going on in the market and how people are engaging with one another. Where are they hanging out? Where are they spending their time? And that should be where you direct your motives or your channels in which you're going after. Justin and I are selling B2B. We're not going to go to a food truck festival expecting to close a bunch of people, right? We would go to a business conference. So it's going to be focusing on where your clients hang out, in my opinion. And I think as we evolve as a society, as an industry, there's definitely going to be new things that come around. Look at the perspective of 2000 versus 2020. Facebook and Google didn't exist back then. So the internet really wasn't what it was. And now you have different technologies evolving every day. So I honestly couldn't tell you. That was a roundabout way of saying I have no clue what's happening in the next 20 years.
I think it's easy. It's easy to know where you should put your attention at. It's just wherever, like Zach said, wherever your audience is. It may be Facebook, it may be Instagram, it may be TikTok. I don't know. MySpace might come back. Who knows? So it just depends on wherever your audience is. What I've come to figure out in the past 6 months, really scaling up our agency and having 2 businesses and spending a lot of money on ads, it really comes down to where people's attention are. If you just find out where the attention's at and just do a good strategy that makes sense for you, that speaks to your ideal clientele, then that's where you should be. What the name of the software or the platform is irrelevant. You just really try to figure out where all the attention's at.
Yeah, and that probably changes over time too, right? You see, kind of to your guys' point, 10, 15 years ago, B2B or just business people in general, it was conferences, or you would pick up, Yellow Pages, right? Or maybe Google at some point, right? They'd have a listing there. Now it's like you got a whole platform, LinkedIn, that's exclusively business, right? And you have other opportunities, right? Like these conferences. There's industries that have conferences every day, every week, every month now. So there's these different kind of areas you can go. What do you guys think is the most important for some of these businesses right now? They're in COVID, we're coming out of COVID, I guess, and they're struggling. They know revenue is important. They have a little bit of money to spend, and they're trying to, get that revenue back up to where it was. How can they engage with someone like you guys to be able to be successful there? What are some tips?
My recommendation, first and foremost, would be to get your offer and your brand positioning down without a doubt, without a fraction of a doubt, exactly what it is that you sell. Like when I was doing nothing but chiropractic marketing, it was, I help chiropractors book 50 appointments per month guaranteed. Like there's no mistaking that statement, right? So I think that's first and foremost, that's the priority. Then from there is establishing the understanding of where your market is. Do the market research like Justin said, and then find and identify how you can communicate to them. If your market's on Facebook, Facebook ads is a great tool that you can leverage. Start building awareness and engagement around your brand, and then retargeting for the lead generation component to engage discussions. Those would be my major tips for somebody through COVID right now. Justin?
I think my tips going through COVID is you have to go back to the fundamentals of business. I like to look at our business or any business that I'm a part of in 3 different phases. 1 is the prospecting phase or the marketing phase. 2 is the sales phase, actually, closing the deal. And 3 is the fulfillment phase. You can have each and every single one of those phases on point and being sure that it's locked down tight, then you should have no problem. Like the fulfillment phase, make sure you have a really, really good offer and you're delivering an awesome product or service. The sales phase is making sure whenever you get the leads or the prospecting, the generating, whatever, you have someone who's competent, knows the product or service, knows how to address the pain points, handle objections, and be able to close that sale. And then down to the prospecting, you have to have good marketing, be able to feed the funnel to feed the entire business, right? So I think, businesses need to focus on and not make it so deep down into the weeds, just kind of take a step back and look at it as an overall picture and just make sure that each and every single one of those phases are airtight. And that goes if we're in COVID, if we're not in COVID, if we go through another pandemic. I mean, just if you have a good product or service that people like, you just need to let people know about it. You need to sell it correctly, and you need to fulfill on that promise of that product and service.
Yeah, and so for you guys, first of all, who's your ultimate target, or who are you serving right now? And then how should those people reach out to you guys? Is it through a website? Is there, some other spot, a social handle? How should people actually reach out to you guys?
Justin, I'll take it. Conversionly.io. Primarily, so there's our flywheel is a component of 3 different aspects. So we have the marketing agency where we'll generate the leads for the business. We have the call center component, which will nurture, qualify, and book the leads for your business. And then we have the training component that makes up our flywheel, where we'll actually build a call center for you. The easiest way to get in touch with Justin and myself is through social media. I'm Luckless Zach everywhere. Justin, I think it's J Oglesby pretty much everywhere. Or our website, conversionly.io, conversionly.io. I totally just blanked on spelling there. But conversionly.io. And then fill out a form there. They can book a time with Justin through that, or our Facebook page, Conversionly on.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, I like to always kind of wrap things up, like, who is it that you guys are looking for, right? What is the ultimate? You guys have 3 or 4 different pieces to your business that you kind of are serving. Who's the ideal customer? Like, for the people who end up listening to this, if you are this person, call you too. Who is that person for you guys?
You are a chiropractor or an agency that fulfills for chiropractors for their marketing and lead generation. That's who we want to talk to. I would be willing to bet without a shadow of doubt, you put mine and Justin's company up against any other marketing agency serving chiropractors, and we will blow them out of the water night and day.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge that you guys have such a niche service and a very focused kind of position. And, I don't even know if you guys know on this call, like, I am a chiropractor, right? I went to school to become a chiropractor. I spent a few too many years doing that and a lot of dollars doing that, right? So, like, I don't practice anymore. And I think a lot of people listen to the show go, that makes no sense. And it's like, listen, I'm trying to serve people at a bigger level than just treating patients all day. It is what it is. But I mean, I think chiropractors are one of the best practitioners for pretty much anybody in the world. And then there's a portion of them that just suck at business, right? They just cannot do the business lead generation side of it. They're really good technicians, really good clinicians, but they can't generate the lead. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things like, how can you have agencies actually support what you're doing? And then on the other side, Conversionly, that's a huge, that's really a big benefit, because conversions is everything, right? And that ball gets dropped typically because a business owner doesn't have the time. It's not that they don't think it's important, it's that they don't have the time to do that, right? If I'm treating 30 patients in the office and you want me to run back and call someone and book them for an appointment and bring them, like, it's just too many things are going on in the practice to make it successful. So at the end of the day, I think it's absolutely critical that you guys have a follow-up system like that. So I appreciate you guys coming on the show and talking a little bit about what you're doing. If you're looking for, marketing services, or really, I think that, like I said, the USP for you guys is Conversionly. Like, that's a huge piece that a lot of people are missing in their business. So check that out, conversionly.com. I think that's conversionly.com, as Zach would say. So,
.io.
Right, conversionly.io. That's right. So check them out. See how they can help you, scale out of your agency or your business. And I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Connor.